Hello, I am your oh so serious one who sometimes cares a little bit too much what you think. I am Michelle Welch.
And I'm the not so serious one. Don't really give a damn what you think. Your host, Roger Welch. So, what's up today, Michelle?
Well, we have some guests with us today. Laura Pace, you guys
Hi.
know her from the store, sitting in with us, and she's a big fan of the guests that we have on our show today. We all are big fans, but so she's joining us tonight. Thank you, Laura, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And tonight we have Theresa Reed with us, and Theresa Reed, aka the Tarot Lady, has been a full-time tarot card reader, and that's tarot for those of you who don't say it in the East Texas accent like I do. Card reader for close to 30 years. She is the author of the Tarot Coloring Book, an illustrated tour through the world of tarot with coloring sheets for every card in the deck. Theresa is also the author of Astrology for Real Life, a no BS guide for the astro-curious, and the co-author of Tarot for Troubled Times with Shaheen Miro. Welcome, Theresa. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me here. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So Laura, did you want to head off, talk about the book that you were so excited to talk about
Sure,
first?
yeah. So I just recently finished Tarot for Troubled Times, Theresa, and I really enjoyed it. And one of the things I was wondering, what was it like to co-author a book with Shaheen, as far as collaborating and writing together? What was that experience like?
Well, I met Shaheen actually when I was doing a book signing for my tarot coloring book. And we had met each other online. So, I already had kind of an idea of what Shaheen was all about. But when we met in person, I knew right away we had to do something together. It's like, sometimes you meet certain people and it's like, oh my God, I have to work with this person. Mm-hmm. And so we became really fast friends and we started thinking about, well, what can we do together? And this was after the election. And we had a lot of clients at that time who were feeling some type of way about the future and feeling really worried. So we created a class called Tarot for Troubled Times. And also one of the other things that was happening for me in my office, we have here in Milwaukee where I live, we've been really hit by that opioid epidemic. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of clients that I've been doing readings for too have been dealing with that either through their own struggles or through people that they love who've been struggling with addiction. So our whole idea for Tarot for Troubled Times was about using tarot as a way to really do some shadow work, some healing work, and to figure out how you can show up in a way that makes sense for you if you are looking to get involved with doing something to change the world. So the whole concept behind it was we want to create something that could help, that could heal, and hopefully inspire people to show up in a way, again, that makes sense for them. So once we taught the class, we had a really good feel of what it was like to work together. So when Wiser approached us and said, hey, listen, we'd love this to become a book, we were already pretty, again, well-versed in how the other person works. And so Shaheen and I kind of had our routine down. Shaheen is very ethereal, he's very magical, he's very mystical. I'm like super practical and I'm got a lot of planets in Virgo, so I like to organize stuff. So we really actually worked together seamlessly. We came up with a plan right from the beginning for writing the book on which section he wanted to write versus what do I want to write, what were some of my experiences I wanted to include in there, what were some of his things he wanted to include in there. And then we went to work writing our parts, and then I put it together, and then it was back and forth, like a lot of, what do you think of this? Does this make sense? Okay, no, put that there. So it really was this beautiful, beautiful team effort, and I mean, really, we didn't have a problem at all. I think it was so natural, which I think makes all the difference when you're collaborating with somebody. If you have somebody that you can communicate with and you both know each other's strengths and weaknesses, it's usually not that hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because it seemed like one voice, really. The whole narrative of the book seemed like one voice, so it was really magical how you guys kind of weaved it together.
That's what I thought.
We're in agreement with a lot of things too. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of similar beliefs, so I think that helps a lot when you're working with somebody. It's kind of like when you're married. If you have opposing views, it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Right. Do you remember, Roger, I was reading this in San Francisco, I believe, and I said that too. It seemed to flow. I couldn't always tell the difference between the authors. It flowed really, really well.
Right. It was very smooth. Worked together.
And so we have this in our store at SoulTopia, and it's been selling really, really well. And one of the people that lease here, Tracy, she was asking, and we read this to you before we went on the air. She was asking about, and you call it, confront your shadow, heal yourself, transform the world. And do you want to frame that question for her, Laura?
Sure. Really, to paraphrase her question, what she asked was, are you seeing more shadow work or the shadow come up more in your readings now than before?
The one thing I want to say, first of all, is that I think a lot of people have a misconception that when people come to tarot, they're all looking to get a reading on the tall, handsome stranger that's going to come in your life and it's going to be entertaining and yada, yada, yada. But oftentimes people come to readers because they are searching, or they're struggling, or they're in some sort of trouble, or they need a safe place where they can talk about things that are going on that maybe they can't talk about with their family, or whatever. So tarot isn't always, I think, what people think it is. A lot of the people that I deal with are people that are in pain. I deal a lot with people, like I said earlier, who are struggling with addiction. I'm actually really good at dealing with that. I also have a lot of clients who want to talk about things like terminal illness and death. I always like to say, if they want to discuss a heavy subject, I'm great at it. I'm a very, very good listener. So, the shadow work has always been part of my work. And I would say probably after this, well, first of all, let me preface this. Anytime we have an election, it doesn't matter what side wins, the other side always comes into the office thinking, it's doom and gloom. They're screwed. And I also have to remind them life is going to go on.
Right.
But after this last election, I did notice that people were really feeling more heavy, more hopeless. And again, we're also in the middle of this opioid thing here. So it has been very shadowy and very interesting, I would say, especially in this last year.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that with your work?
I did, and I agree with everything you said. I think that there you get those few people who come in for the maybe what I would call frivolous. It's not frivolous to them, but really people come in for deep questions. They're really seeking a place to speak and to be heard and a safe space. I agree with that totally. But yeah, I also agree with after every election, it doesn't matter. Each side feels very strongly about whatever happened with the election. I mean, very, very strong that the other side is completely wrong. I love one part in your book. Well, first I love the fact that in both of your books, there's such practical applications. You go deep, but then you bring it back to really, really practical applications. So I think that applies when I'm telling people about the books in the store. I can say, for those who really want something deeper, it's in there, but then there's also that for the really applying it in your life. And I was asked to run for office this year, and I declined. I'm a lawyer. I don't know if you knew that, Theresa, and I was going to run for judge, and it was like, I don't know about that. So maybe next year, maybe in 2 years. But there's actually, like on page 245, how to run for office. And you really actually give step by step on how to run for office in this book. And I thought that was just really powerful that you give all these practical applications and apply it back to tarot. Could you talk about that a little bit?
First of all, tarot is very practical. I think it's an incredibly practical tool. And I'm by the way, I'm a super sensible, practical person. I have I don't know how or why, but an extremely good amount of common sense that I've had since I've been a child. I just really have that innately within me. But tarot's super practical. I mean, it can show you the way things are going. It can give you an opportunity to reflect on things. You can look at strategies with tarot. I think tarot is one of the most practical things you can do. So astrology is practical too. They're both tools, and it depends on how you use them. I always like to say tools in the right hands can do amazing things. Think of a hammer. We can hang a beautiful picture on the wall, but a hammer in the wrong hands can do a lot of damage. We can break windows or maybe hit you over the head. Tarot and astrology are both very, very practical, pragmatic tools. And I'm a proactive person. I'm one of those people that I don't believe life just happens to you, although in some cases, shit does happen, excuse my French. I don't know if I can swear. Can I swear?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You're on a show with Roger,
yeah,
so
you can
get
swear.
ready.
All right. So sometimes shit does just happen that nobody can explain. And sometimes, yes, people are truly victims and they get into situations that aren't really easy to get out of. But a lot of times, we have a choice. It's how we show up in the situation, it's how we deal with things, it's the decisions we make that really kind of create our destiny. So I'm a big believer that when you do tarot or astrology or whatever medium you like, oftentimes it can help you to look at where you are and where you're going, so maybe you can make better decisions if you don't like where that outcome is leading. And as far as the whole political thing, I've always been, by the way, very political. My whole family's very politically minded. And I mean, we talked about politics at the dinner table since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Yeah. You know, so it's always been a part of our thing. And I think it's very important for people to discuss what's happening in the world, to talk about it, even if you don't agree. The way for us to heal the world, it always starts with listening. And you know, listening is the big thing that tarot readers do and do really well that a lot of people don't do. We listen. We create the space so that people can open up. And think about if we all did that, if we listened without thinking of responding, if we were open to what the other side was saying, it would be a lot different.
That's absolutely. We were talking about that today in our class about listening and the throat chakra and how much that's a part of it. In your other book, Astrology for Real Life, a workbook for beginners, which we also have in the store, a no BS guide for the astro curious. It's interesting at the beginning, I'm not sure if it's in the foreword or the introduction, you speak about the fact that you are known as the tarot lady, but you actually began with astrology. Right? So
astrology was my first love. I mean, tarot came after that. And yes, I wrote about it in the book. I mean, so the way it happened for me is, you know, when I was in high school, I was a typical angsty teen and little punk rocker and all that, and trying to figure out my way and who I am. And like most teenagers, I mean, that's what they're all doing. They're trying to figure out who the heck they are. And my best friend, who's still my best friend to this day, we met when we were 15, and she was actually homeschooled for all of her grade school years, but she decided to go to high school on a lark to see what it was like. And so, of course, two weirdos are going to be drawn to each other like magnets. So we became fast friends, and her mother wanted to read my chart. And her mother was really different. She was unlike any other mother I ever met before. She wanted to be called Lolly. She didn't have, you know, she wasn't Mrs. So-and-so. She smoked like a fiend. She was very, you know, she's into philosophy. She was into psychology. She was a pianist. She traveled the world. I mean, very, very different than my mother. And so she wanted to, of course, read my astrology chart. And I said, well, sure, why not? I'd seen like the horoscopes in the newspaper, didn't think too much of them. And she sat down with that chart, and I got to tell you, I started thinking then, well, now this makes sense. This makes a lot more sense than what my parents are telling me. I got to learn this astrology. So I started studying astrology, and I still have her books. In fact, her book I have, her mother passed away many years ago, and I have it wrapped in plastic with all of her scribblings in the margins. It's one of my most treasured things. I love this book. But anyhow, so, you know, I started there. I started studying astrology, and on one of those really rare trips when we went to the mall, I grew up in a rural area, by the way. I wasn't like one of those girls who went shopping for clothes. I could give a rip about clothes. My whole thing was books or record albums. And of course, because I'm saying record albums, I'm really showing you how old I am. So those were one of the things I spent all my money on. And I went into the bookstore looking for, of course, astrology books. And they had a very tiny metaphysical section in Walden Books, it was called back then. They don't exist anymore. Do you guys remember Walden Books?
I do, yes.
Okay. So I went in there in the metaphysical section, and they didn't have a lot back then. I mean, people now are so lucky. The resources are amazing. And I saw a tarot deck, and I'm like, I've seen that in the movies. That's coming home with me. So I just bought it on a whim. And I took it home, and I'm a very visual person, and I started playing around with it and looking at the patterns, and I'm like, you know, the light bulbs went off, and I'm like, oh my God, this thing has a lot of answers. This is pretty darn amazing. So I started reading for whoever would let me. But in the background, astrology has always been running in the background. Now for me, the primary way that I use astrology, I've used it lots of different ways, but now it's just, mostly I use it for business. I love to time everything by the stars. And I got to say, it works like a charm for business. So that's how I use it now. But yeah, astrology was my first love. I still love it.
Interesting.
So what was that first deck you bought?
A Marseille's deck. That's all that was there. Oh my God, talk about a hard deck to learn on. That's what I cut my teeth on. And I think, and you know, that was a hard deck.
Well,
and
everything was downhill after that.
Yeah, you know, so I mean, I'm this 15-year-old kid. I'm trying to figure this all out. I'm like, oh, it's got these French titles. I don't speak French. So it was a lot. And I had nobody, there were no teachers, there were no mentors. There weren't that many books out, or at least none that I could get my hands on. And no internet. I mean, I had to learn the hard way. The next time we went to that bookstore, that must have been about 6 months or more, I don't remember. And I went, of course, right to that metaphysical section, and I saw the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And so I looked at it, I'm like, ooh, this has got pictures in it. This is coming home with me. And the Rider-Waite-Smith deck then, by now I had a Marseille's background, but as soon as I started with the Rider-Waite-Smith, I'm like, chuck that Marseille's. I'm like, this has lots of images. This gives me something to look at. I can see the story unfolding. And, you know, so since then I've been really devoted to the Rider-Waite-Smith deck.
Yeah.
That's still what you read with today, right?
When I work with clients, that's the deck I normally use because, and the main reason why I use it, and I know nowadays it's not the most modern deck, but it's a classic and everybody's familiar with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So if I describe it, nobody's sitting there thinking, what the hell is she looking at? Most people know. It's so widely recognized. So that's why I use it. But if I'm reading for myself, the deck I usually use for myself is the Baroque Bohemian Cats Tarot, which is my all-time favorite deck. Because I can't resist cats in Victorian clothes. That's one of my things. But I'll also sometimes fiddle around with other different decks. I just got this new deck that I'm exploring called This Might Hurt Tarot deck.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I'm playing around with it, and you know, it's based on a Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, so of course I really like that. And it's just an interesting deck. Some of these indie authors are coming out with some great stuff.
Oh, they are. Yeah,
Yeah.
they really are. Roger, do you want to do your segment?
So I have a part here that I get to do called I Stalked Your Social Media.
Ooh.
So it took me all day today, though. No, I'm lying. So, what's the first thing we got?
Donuts.
Donuts. So you're a foodie, right? I did see it. And I did see you even made a comment about donuts, that you love donuts.
I love to eat, period. I am a total foodie. I love to cook. Cooking is my other hobby. You know, that is the one thing. If I'm not slinging cards or looking at the stars, I'm probably cooking. I adore cooking. I come from a family of people who love to cook and eat. So
Yeah, I even saw one picture you were in, like it was like a commercial kitchen cooking type situation, right? Like almost like a
some
class or
class.
something?
I've taken classes. There's a local SoulWhat that offers classes. Such a classes and things that interest me. I love to eat at really interesting restaurants. My favorite restaurant in the world is in Portland. It's a place called Castagna, and they serve molecular gastronomy. And my favorite story there is one time I was there, and because I go there so every time I'm in Portland, you know, the chef kind of knows me and my girlfriend, so we get extra rolls. Their rolls are amazing. But they sent out a special dish for us. And this shows you how hard of hearing I am. The guy says, and so the chef brings you know, this, it's a raw antelope heart with a sliced raw peach. And I thought he said raw animal parts. And I'm like, raw animal parts? What kind of animal am I eating here? And the guy starts laughing. He goes, no, you're going to eat a raw antelope heart. I'm like, I'm down. So, and it was delicious, by the way. I eat almost anything.
Awesome. And then next I saw is your husband.
Yes, I love my husband.
He's a freaking, all right, what did you put it, how did you put it? A rock and roll country singer? Look-alike.
In that particular picture, yes.
Yeah. How'd y'all meet?
We met actually, let's see, a very, very long time ago. We were at I forgot about this, yeah. So I got dragged to go see a concert of a band I did not like. They were like a hair metal band. I'm not a hair metal girl. I love metalheads, even though I'm an old school punk rocker and I love hip hop and rap. But back in the day, I tended to like to date the metalheads because they were always more romantic. Well, anyhow,
See?
this was like a hair metal band, the kind I don't like. And so I got dragged into this thing with my girlfriend. I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'll go. And so I got there, and he got dragged into it by the girl he was dating at that time. So all of a sudden, they came walking in the room. I'm like, oh my God. And I said to my girlfriend, that's the guy for me, totally. And she goes, yeah, he's way out of your league. He's with someone else. I said, all right, well, yeah, you're probably right. Well, anyhow, his girlfriend was really cool. So I ended up meeting her that night in the bathroom, and her and I hit it off, and we became friends. And she goes, oh my God, she says, you got to meet my boyfriend. You two have so much in common. So she ended up introducing us, but nothing happened because, I'm not one of those people. And so I ended up becoming friends with both of them. And I would run into him over the years, and he always had a girlfriend, so I never could really make a move. But I always thought he was really beautiful. To me, he was just the bee's knees. And one time, after knowing him for 5 years, I ran into him in a club, and he was single. And I made my move, and the rest is history. And we've been together now for almost 30 years.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
I knew the first time I saw him, though, he was it. I knew. And I've had love at first sight twice in my life. I had it one other time. That didn't work out, but I've been really fortunate to have that feeling. That's such a great feeling.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
What's the next one?
The next one, your cats.
My babies.
Yes. So, but you know what? And I didn't save is you also posted quite a few pictures of goats.
Well, I've got a goat problem.
Do you have a goat problem? Do you have goats?
No, I don't. I love goats just because, well, first of all, I'm very silly. I love animals. I adore animals. I like to say I like animals sometimes better than humans because they're so fun and interesting. And I'm a total cat fanatic. But I love goats because they're so weird looking. And the first time I was thinking about it once, I'm like, why do they always have this look on their face, like they have an attitude? And I found myself really drawn to that. So I love goats because I think they're funny looking. They crack me up. I also like tapirs. I think tapirs are really funny looking. There's just something about them that I really, I get a kick out of, so.
Oh.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, I think it's time for a giveaway.
Oh.
A giveaway.
So, and already decided whoever wins can
Damn.
choose one of the books that we have in the store of Theresa's. So they can choose Astrology for Real Life, or they can choose the Tarot for Troubled Times.
So I was listening close because, I always have to listen real close. And she was talking about going to the bookstore, and she had the metaphysical area, books, and albums. She actually mentioned an album. Did you hear it?
I did.
Say it.
I'm not going to say it.
She mentioned an album, and if you were paying attention while she was
I didn't hear
talking, you got to pay attention.
I was paying attention.
Obviously not paying attention enough.
Oh my God. I didn't
Wait,
hear
what?
it.
She mentioned a specific album?
She mentioned an artist.
An
Did
artist.
you mentioned an artist, right?
Did I?
While you were talking about the albums.
Well, you were listening close. She doesn't even
She didn't even know.
remember.
Well, then maybe I misheard it.
I
then.
think you misheard it. You better come
Alright.
up with another question, because I knew she
Oh,
mentioned
so,
album.
now I want to know. So what album did I mention?
I thought you
know.
said you was going for the Sam Cooke album.
Oh, God, no.
I was like,
Oh, my God.
and I was like, really?
No,
Okay.
that
No,
didn't
no,
seem
no,
like
no,
her at
no.
all.
Okay.
She
I
told
was
me
like-
she was a punk rocker.
I know. That's why I was kind of confused by
Okay, so
that.
think of
Okay,
another.
so next
Think of
question.
All right,
no,
next
all
question.
missed that. Think of another question.
Back in the day, that would not be the thing I was buying. For me, when I was a little girl, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And, I remember listening to things in the 70s like the Partridge Family. And when I was, and this is so funny, I have to laugh at it. When I was about 12 years old, we got one of those in the newspaper, this thing, and it said punk rock. I said to my mom, I said, Mommy, what's punk rock? And she goes, I don't know what that is. So I thought, okay. So I went to the store and I was looking at magazines and I saw Cream magazine, which is very adult magazine, and it said punk rock. So I took that thing home, started reading it, and I saw a picture of the Sex Pistols. I said, oh my God, the Sid Vicious guy is it. So that's right around the time I was turning 13. And so I tore down the Sean Cassidy stuff off the wall. I replaced everything with the Sex Pistols and the Clash. My mother was horrified. And that was it. So it was just that curiosity. Mommy, what's punk rock?
Okay, so we're going to do the name of her favorite restaurant in Portland. The first one to get it.
Okay.
And spelling doesn't count. You just got to
Just get close.
pretty close. Name of, I remember that.
I remember it, but I don't remember the exact name. I
And
know
so-
how it sounded.
And write some information about, if you don't remember the exact same name, just write something so we know you were listening right at that point. Whoever does it first wins.
I know what she likes.
Yeah, I know what she likes too. Okay, so now we're going to play a quick game. Okay,
Okay.
you guys?
I'm
So
ready.
here's how we're going to do it. So I'm going to read
it?
a kind of a
Yes.
characteristic. Who won?
Leslie. Castaneda.
Leslie wins everything on this show.
She's probably been
That's because she listens every single show, like religiously live. So congratulations, Leslie. You can choose whichever when you get here, whichever one you want to do. Okay, so we're going to do a game. It's called Which Sign Is It? Now these are zodiac signs, and you guys may or may not be experts. I'm going to be the game host, and I'm
Okay.
going to read a phrase or
So it's me
a
against
trait. Well,
And Theresa.
and Teresa's going to tell you the real answer.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
you guys are going to answer what you think
Oh,
it would be,
Lord.
and then Teresa's going to set you guys straight.
Okay.
Okay.
You can
All
do
right.
it, guys.
Here we go. Y'all are
Okay.
great.
Scorpio.
Thank you. Y'all are
I'm
great.
not an astrology
Time out.
expert.
Time out. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun.
I'm just going to answer everything Scorpio.
You're gonna go straight
Scorpio.
Scorpio. Roger's
Straight
a Scorpio.
Scorpio
He
ticket.
just said straight Scorpio ticket. Okay, here we go. Number 1. Most likely to spontaneously book a flight that leaves the next day.
I did that not too long ago.
Okay.
Scorpio.
Gemini.
And the answer, what do you think would be?
I'd say Sagittarius.
Oh.
All right, so nobody gets a point on that one. I mean, Teresa wins, but you guys,
But we don't.
she's the judge.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2, most likely to have a sugar daddy or mama. Erica wrote these guys, just so you know.
Okay.
I didn't write them. Most likely to have a sugar daddy or a sugar mama.
Aquarius.
They're too independent.
Oh.
Cancer.
Is it
Here's the
Cancer?
thing with that one. That's kind of a trick question. I could see Cancer. I could see Capricorn. I could see Taurus. That can go
Okay.
any ways.
So
He said Cancer. That's me. Do I have a sugar daddy? Where's my sugar daddy? Okay.
You know, they say sometimes what Cancer's looking for, they're looking for a parental figure who can take care of them. So that's why Cancer could
Could
be
be.
an
Point.
Oh.
Could be.
I got
Okay.
a number
Okay, we'll
marked
give you
at
points.
me.
I got it.
In the
1,
game.
Lars 0.
All right, number 3. Least likely to kill a spider. Nobody-
Aquarius.
Okay. Nobody here would claim to be, well, I'm not going to speak for them. I would not claim to be an expert in astrology. That's why I'm excited to dive into your book. I don't know about
I'm
Scorpio.
excited about diving into the coloring book.
Yes. Yeah, that's the other.
Fun to color.
Yes. All right. So
I'll say Scorpio.
Scorpio rules death. Scorpio loves to kill.
Oh.
that's
Where
Roger.
the, what the hell's wrong with you?
That was the
I don't
opposite.
know. See,
You're
I
playing
told you I
opposite
wasn't
game.
an astro-
Opposite
I'm-
game.
Okay.
I would say Pisces because Pisces is very compassionate. They would probably have the hardest time killing. So here's a fun fact. Most serial killers, there's this famous list going around, are mutable signs. Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces. I'm like, what? I'm
saw
a
that
Gemini.
list. I saw that and I was like,
Okay.
not on that. All
I'm
right.
still in the game. I'm going to try.
Most likely to commit a crime. You are psychic, Teresa. You just gave us the list, or at least some sort of crime.
Or some sort of crime?
Well, she gave us a,
Yeah.
a serial killer crime, but what did she just say?
Okay, you go first.
Taurus.
I'm going to say Scorpio.
I would agree. I think
Oh, it's a
Scorpio would be the
Yes.
one most likely to commit a crime because they
I was
go
trying
between
not to
being
put
the
myself
devil
in
and
a
the angel. But Scorpio is probably the one that would be the most likely to get away with it.
Ah.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that for these two again?
We know you get away with it. Okay, most likely to cancel plans.
Cancer.
I'm going to say
Well,
Gemini.
Well, see, that I would probably agree with as a Gemini. I love canceling plans all the time.
I'm a Gemini.
I mean,
so-
here's the thing is, I'm very reliable. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. But the one thing I say, my husband always says, he goes, you go ahead and make plans with people, then all I hear is you bitching about it the entire time, praying that it cancels. And I'm like, well, that has nothing to do with Gemini. That has to do with my introversion. That I love being home with these stupid cats, doing nothing and watching 90 Day Fiancé. That's my favorite thing in the world.
And
so.
writing books, apparently.
And
right?
writing. I love to write.
Bestsellers. Okay, most likely to change the world. Leo.
I was gonna say
Oh,
Leo.
I was going to say Leo.
But
Leo
I'm
would
not
be my
supposed to
guess.
play, but that's because I really don't
I'd say
know.
Leo.
I was going to say Leo.
Leo's a great leader, but also Aries. Aries is daring, they're bold. Aquarius would also be my other choice because Aquarius is the humanitarian. And Jupiter and Saturn are going to be aligning in Aquarius right after the next election. Now, that only happens once every 20 years when Jupiter and Saturn align. So I don't know if it's the age of Aquarius, but we are certainly going to see people getting a lot more interested in humanitarianism.
Well, you know, and I think you bring up a really good point because this question is ambiguous because most likely to change the world, how? You know?
That's true.
Because you just answered some very different ways they could change the world. I mean, they're going to take over the world and be a dictator. They're going to change the world and be a humanitarian. So, yeah, it could be different answers. Okay, number 7. Most likely to appear as intimidating.
Taurus.
Scorpio.
I think Scorpios are very intimidating to a lot of people. In fact, most astrology books give them a bum rap. They always make them sound like, oh, they're really devious. And I mean, they do have that devious side. But a lot of Scorpios, if you treat them right, I mean, they are loyal to the core. But they can often come off as intimidating, I think, because they're very mysterious.
They are, yeah. All right, most likely to be a loner. You've answered that tonight, I think. A little bit, you touched on it.
Well, being a Gemini, actually, we're not considered loners. We're supposed to be loving hanging out with everybody. And I'm
Okay.
very friendly, but I love to be alone. I love, love, love being alone. When my husband goes on vacation, no, don't get me wrong, I love this man to death, but I'm like,
Yes.
I get the house to myself. I love being alone.
So they still need to guess, I guess, right? Do you?
I kind of like being, yeah, I don't know.
I'll say Capricorn.
Capricorns do very well being on their own. They don't have a problem with it. Neither do Scorpios. I hate to go back to the Scorpios, but Scorpios and
I was
Capricorns,
just
they don't
gonna say
mind.
Scorpio.
They're
Yeah.
okay with being by themselves.
All right, most likely to live with their parents as an adult.
Taurus.
My brother, no.
Mine too.
Roger's
That's why I
too?
said Taurus. 45 years old and I still live at home.
Roger. Shh.
He's an idiot. I can't.
Roger.
I want to say Capricorn.
Actually, Cancer would be the most likely to
Cancer.
stay close to home, because oftentimes Cancer
I'll
was
go
the
with
mother, so a lot of Cancers tend to have a really close relation with mom, so oftentimes they'll stay home longer than other signs. The other one that might be home longer than others would be Virgo. The one thing I will say, though, you have to look deeper than the sun sign.
Oh, I
Because
agree.
astrology it's so much more complicated than that. I mean, again, if you go just by what people say about Geminis, and I'm a Gemini, we're flighty, we're flaky, we're super sociable, and I'm very grounded, I'm very practical, and I like being by myself.
Right.
Why? Well, I've got a moon in Scorpio, I've got 3 planets in Virgo, I've got a grand trine in water. You know, so you can look at the chart and say, oh, well, here's why. She's got some of that Gemini characteristics, but she's not operating like a regular Gemini.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Do you want to do a few more? So they're just for fun, obviously. Let me see if there's a, then we'll do a couple readings. Let's do, oh, this one's interesting. Most likely to live in a van down by the river.
Isn't that Chris Farley?
Yeah.
Yep. I have no idea.
Aquarius.
I was going to say Aquarius.
You're just copying me.
No. Darn it.
I could see Aquarius doing something like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So these are
Sag-
fun.
Or Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so do we have time? We have a little bit of time for readings. Theresa, I believe you agreed to do kind of what we call lightning readings. Here's the thing, guys. We don't have very much time left at all.
Okay.
So I would say it needs to be a 1-card pull, if at all possible.
She's
or,
looking at me, guys.
Or if not, we just let Theresa read.
Okay.
Let's do a 1-card pull,
One-card
because it's
pull.
always fun to do a collective reading.
Okay, I love that's
that.
usually what we do. I just want to make sure that Roger.
Told you, she's looking at me, guys.
I'm playing, baby. All
So
right.
what decks is everybody working with?
So I'll show you mine. This one is, she pulls a lot of symbolism from the Rider-Waite-Smith. It's Kathy McClellan's The Star Tarot. A lot of my decks were not accessible tonight. They were put up. I have a bunch, and we were trying to pull some that were on the floor.
Mm-hmm. I'm using the Melanated Tarot, Classic
I
Tarot.
love that.
We love it because we're loving getting the diversity in the store. And the last one, Roger's reading, we had on the show last week or a week ago.
This is the New Orleans Oracle deck by Fatima.
Nice.
Yeah, so Fatima's self-published. We do get self-published decks here at SoulTopia. When I go to Reader Studio and other places, I do try to support all of them. But, you know, of course, they're a little bit harder for us to get in the store sometimes due to the pricing
Yep.
and stuff.
But can I just say one thing about the indie publishers? They are giving the big publishers a run for the money and showing them how to do a deck right.
We totally agree. We totally agree with everything about that. So we carry a lot of them.
Well, we came home with several from New York last year.
Yeah, we did. We came with a lot from
Yeah.
New York. Okay, are we ready? And so we'll just set, everybody set your own intention for your readings the way you set it, but we'll just say in general that we set an intention for this to be for the highest and best good for whomever we're reading for, if that's okay with everyone else. However you set your intention as readers, set that now. And Roger or?
So we've got, yes, we have Carla. She would like just a general reading.
A general reading from
For
Carla.
Carla,
I
yes.
love Carla. Okay, so here we go. General reading from Carla. Carla is a friend of the stores. Theresa, and all I say to this is, I just love to always give her a shout out because she drives all the way from Oklahoma to Texas to come to our
Wow.
store.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's a fan.
That is a fan. I'll start. Carla, I'll keep it short for you tonight. But Carla, I just want you to know that things are now coming back into your hands. For a while, it felt as though your hands were a little bit tied on how you could live your life. You had obligations that you really loved your obligations, but yet now things are coming back in full circle for you, and you're going to be able to begin life, and you have a lot of exciting things you can do and the way you want to live your life, and it's really exciting, and we're really happy for you, even though it's the byproduct of something that happened in your life that is sad. Okay, but we're excited to see this next chapter in your life.
Carla, I got the 6 of Wands, and I feel like with the start of the new season, this is going to be a very successful and victorious season for you moving into the holidays. I feel like you're going to have a very, happy, light home this holiday season, and some of the projects that you're working on, you'll see some movement and, movement towards success for you.
Roger?
Okay, so I got the 15 card, which is Step Back. Actually, I think this is one of the ones Fatima said she loved.
She said it was one of her hardest ones to make.
The hardest
Mhm.
ones to make, yeah. But the one thing is about this one, Carla, is it's not just stepping back, but it's actually looking out over everything you have going on right now. So you have a lot of, I know you've got a lot of things you've been dealing with, but just really kind of focus in on what's important, what's not important, and kind of just enjoy life a little more.
Theresa?
And the card I pulled is the Emperor. And the Emperor is often seen as that card of hard work and discipline, but it's a reminder that you've already crossed over an incredibly big mountain. And where you sit right now is way more stable than where you were maybe even a couple of months ago or a year or so ago. So it's important to acknowledge how far you've come and the hard work that got you to where you are now. There's still a lot of work ahead, but because of what you've endured, you have the spiritual maturity now to know how to work with the next chapter.
Beautiful.
The
Beautiful
next
reading.
one is going to be.
You do one more.
One more,
tonight.
okay.
Okay.
So one more, and it's going to be Mariska and a general reading.
Okay.
And Mariska, if I screwed your name up, sorry.
Mariska.
She's new on here too.
Good. Welcome, Mariska.
And Carla just did a whole bunch of hearts on there.
Oh, thank you, Carla. All right. Roger, would you like to start?
So, got the abundance card, but what I really see here is just is your cups just overflowing. You've got a lot of things coming at you and a lot of things happening, and just really just soak that in and take advantage of it. So everything that's coming at you right now, just take advantage of it, accept it in, and just keep going with it and keep letting it come into you.
I got the 9 of Cups, and the Hermit was stuck to it on the back.
Ooh.
So I wonder if there's some meaning in that, to ride on what Roger just said. I got the 9 of Cups, and I think that, yes, you have a lot of abundance in your life right now, but be sure and share it. You have a lot of people that look towards you for love and compassion, and I know that you are a very compassionate person, so be sure and try and reach out to those that may need you this coming season. And with the Hermit also, I think now might be a good time to look inward and be reflective on the gratitude that you have for all that you've been given.
And I love this card. It's a 3 of Cups, and I love this depiction. So we have a lot of cups and celebration, but to tag on to, again, this collective reading, I do again believe for you, Mariska, that it's time to share in some things with other people, not only in your, what did you say, abundance?
Mhm.
But not only in your abundance, but also as, to bring it back to the beginning of the show, as Theresa said, sometimes we need to share with others about things that are going on in our lives that maybe aren't always perfect in our lives. So I feel like you need to share in your happiness, but find those that also share in your trials, and have those few close friends around you that they celebrate your successes and they're there for you in your times of trial.
And I pulled the King of Wands. So if we look at the King of Wands through the lens of Mariska, this would be telling you that you are entering a time right now that's going to be very creative, and you're going to need to take some risks. This is not the time to be this is not the time to be timid. It's a time to be very bold. So whatever it is that you are thinking about doing, this says go for it, go for the gusto, be bold, let your passion lead the way. If we look at this, though, through the lens of someone else in your life, this could also indicate that there may be somebody in the picture this year who really ignites something within you. Now, maybe this is a teacher, maybe this is a partner, maybe it's a boss, but somebody is going to be igniting something in you, and it looks like a very exciting dynamic.
Well, Theresa, thank you so much for being on with us tonight and taking your time. I know you're so busy and you do so many things. You're writing books, appearing, just so busy. So it really means a lot to us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone. Laura, thank you for
Thanks
showing
for
up
having me.
tonight.
Always love it.
Yeah, and thank you all of you for listening. That's it for this week. And listen, you guys, we would really appreciate it if you could listen to us on SoulWhat, where you listen on Spotify, iHeart Radio app, Google Podcast, iTunes, and of course by watching live on YouTube at MichelleSoulTopia and on Facebook at SoulWhat. And one more thing before we fade out. Theresa, where can people find you? I forgot to ask you that.
No problem. They can find me at thetarotlady.com. That's where everything about me, my books, my blog, all my writings, and if they want to purchase a reading, that's the place to go, thetarotlady.com.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you for that. And so thank you for listening, everyone, to SoulWhat, where we discuss and you get to decide what is important for your soul. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, Theresa.